It's time for us to give Chris Paul his flowers and give Chris Paul his due, the point guard, the greatest all-around point guard of all time, in my opinion. A lot of people aren't talking about Chris Paul. A lot of people aren't talking about the Phoenix Suns, but they quietly are the second best team in the Western Conference and probably have separated themselves from the pack. And other than the Lakers right now, they look like they can go the distance as long as the season continues. But Chris Paul is a franchise changer. He's 35 years old. He's still affecting and having that impact on franchises with the Phoenix Suns. He had it last year with the Oklahoma City Thunder. He's had it his entire career. He impacts winning. A lot of people don't want to accept this because they only can think of a player impacting winning is if they're only winning championships, but that's not the case. He has changed his culture in Phoenix. He's changed the culture in OKC. He's changed the culture in Houston. He's changed the culture wherever he goes. Also, the Los Angeles Clippers, everywhere he goes, that team elevates. He is a floor riser, similar to LeBron James. The only difference between that is LeBron James being 6'8", 275 pounds, and a freak of nature, and one of the greatest athletes of all time. But Chris Paul affects the game of basketball in a variety of ways. Chris Paul impacts in winning. He changes cultures. He's a player that anybody would love to have on their team. He goes out, he plays hard, he gives it his 110%. He's only averaging, 13 and 7 and 5 this year so far, but the stats don't really matter. If you look at the Phoenix Suns roster, they have 7 guys averaging double digits so far this year, and they're also playing excellent defense on the defensive side of the floor as well. They're going to be really, really good if they can keep this momentum and keep this pace going, and especially with Devin Booker not having to do everything, have the sole responsibility of scoring. We're seeing Cameron Johnson, Mikal Bridges, Ayton. We're seeing Chris Paul, of course. We're seeing Cameron Payne, who has revitalized his career, help the Phoenix Suns. We're seeing Dario. He's averaging 10 points per game. Phoenix Suns have a great team, and a lot of that has to do with Chris Paul affecting his entire mentality and on that team, and also really galvanizing those troops and really saying yo, we have enough. We are one of the best teams in the Western Conference. We can go out and win. We can go out and compete against anybody. And that says a lot about Chris Paul's character. Chris Paul is, like I said, 35 years old, still being a franchise changer and affecting culture in a positive way. And if you look at the Houston Rockets and everything they were able to do with James Harden and Chris Paul together in Houston, winning 67 games, going out and almost beating the Golden State Warriors. We have to give Chris Paul his flowers. Wherever he goes, he has a positive impact on their culture and team, and also he affects winning, even if he's not winning a championship. Because like I always say, rings aren't the only thing that matters when we're talking about in ways of winning and guys helping change franchise and guys taking a team that's, a playoff contender, taking them and making them a championship contender, taking teams that's a playoff team that's on the bubble and taking them and be a legit playoff team. This is what Chris Paul does, and this is what Chris Paul excels at doing. Chris Paul is one of those players that's going to play the 40 because he's so intelligent on the basketball court, and he can average 10, 5, and 5, or he can come off the bench and be their sixth man and play the Rondo position until he's in his 40s. That's just Chris Paul. Chris Paul is going to play about 4 more years if he wants to. And we've seen a great positive shift so far with the Phoenix Suns, and hopefully, they go and they continue to win. They go and have success in the playoffs, and then Chris Paul plays another year, and maybe this is enough to keep Devin Booker. I don't know if that's going to be enough after all the terrible years of the Phoenix Suns and all the roster turmoil with that organization. But if these next 2 years with Chris Paul and Devin Booker can start winning some basketball games, they can winning and competing in the playoffs, the Phoenix Suns are going to have a great chance. Not a great chance. The Suns are going to have a better chance at keeping Devin Booker than they did before Chris Paul arrived. So that's why you go out and get a guy that's 35 years old and you pay him $41 million, $40 million this year, $41 million next year, even though he's up in age, because of his impact that he has on winning and culture, and also his impact he's going to have on the other players on your roster already. So it's time for us to give Chris Paul his flowers. Like I said, once again, to me, he's the greatest all-around point guard in the history of the game. And what he's doing right now in Phoenix is impressive, but it's expected because we've seen him do it in OKC. We've seen him do it with the Houston Rockets, help be a floor riser and help James Harden and the Houston Rockets reach almost an ultimate pinnacle in beating the Golden State Warriors. And he's also elevated, the Hornets, of course, back in his, super prime days. But he's also helped the Clippers, and kind of revitalize that franchise and made it cool. Lob City made it cool for, free agents and people to want to go and actually play for the Clippers. A lot of that has to do with Chris Paul, in that trade with David Stern, and then allow him to go to the Los Angeles Lakers, of course. But we got to give Chris Paul his flowers. And the Phoenix Suns, watch out for the Phoenix Suns. They're playing excellent brand of basketball right now. And it looks like, other than the Los Angeles Lakers, they're probably the second best team in the Western Conference. Not maybe from a talent perspective, but just as of right now. But I can't wait to see how things are going to play out in the future. And hopefully Chris Paul continues to stay healthy and continue to be the leader and the franchise changer that he is.